This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Real Talk. Today we're going to be digging into the relationship that people, that communities have with their sports teams, and maybe more particularly with the buildings that house and showcase their sports teams. We're talking about Calgary's new arena today and wondering, quite frankly, did Calgarians get hosed on the deal? This is something that's been talked about for nearly a decade now under more than one Calgary civic administration. More than one Calgary mayor has looked that city in the eyes through the cameras rolling and promised an agreement with the ownership group of the Flames, with the Calgary Stampede in some way, shape, or form. Calgarians have wrapped their minds around what a new entertainment district might look like, but time and time again, one of the parties has walked away. There have been contentious moments, breakdowns in the relationship. Until recently, a new agreement struck, but at first glance, on the surface, it appears as though the city is getting a way worse deal than it was in previous manifestations of that agreement, in previous structures of that agreement. We're going to talk to Jeremy Klaszus today. He's founder and editor-in-chief of The Sprawl, and they've got a new feature out. You can see it at Sprawl Calgary, the real costs of Calgary's new arena deal. That's coming up in 30 seconds. First, we want to let you know that support for this episode of Real Talk is coming from our friends at Danatech. If you want to get your team the industry's best safety training, Danatech's been Alberta's safety training leader for more than 3 decades. Their courses are designed by experts with real on-the-job experience, so the courses actually make a difference on your job site. You can save lost time on injuries, stay compliant with changing regulations, and save money on training with Danatech. Big companies across Canada use Danatech's WIMIS, TDG, electrical, and lifting device courses for very good reason. They've got a catalog of more than 150 courses across all industries. You can check out their website today, danatech.com, to see their courses and find out about bulk discounts. Again, that's danatech.com. Jeremy Klaszus joining us in just a second. You can read his and his team's work at sprawlcalgary.com. They also produce the Sprawlcast, a podcast, an audio version of the stories they tell. Here's just a snippet, a portion of the most recent Sprawlcast.
We had a wide range of views on this project, and through civil discourse, we arrived not only at a clear decision, but a unanimous decision.
We are trying to get this done for September of 2026.
In a time when affordability is top of mind for many Calgarians, this is an important investment in our local economy, our downtown recovery, and our future.
It's definitely not a free lunch. There are costs because we're foregoing the opportunity to use those funds for other purposes.
Various voices there leading off with Calgary's Mayor Jody Gondek. That was economist Dr. Trevor Toon you heard taking us out as we welcome the editor-in-chief, the founder of Sprawl Calgary, Jeremy Klaszus. It's nice to see your face. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, good to be back here, Ryan. Good to see you.
Yeah, Calgarians, and for that matter, Albertans and people across the National Hockey League even, I think, wondering when one of the league's oldest buildings was going to be leveled. A new facility for the Flames. Have been having this conversation for close to a decade, and now I guess if you're a big hockey fan, if you're a fan of seeing big infrastructure projects, there's reason for optimism with recent headlines. You believe that this one's actually going to happen?
It looks like it will. I actually think that this one, I think it will go ahead. I think the question now is it a good deal for the city of Calgary? Because if you look at the deal that City Council approved in 2019, the city said, hey, we'll pitch in $275 million for this. And the Flames were going to do the same. So split the costs 50-50. This deal, the city is putting up $831 million in cash. The Flames are putting up $40 million. So I think it is going to proceed ahead at speed. This thing is broken down a number of times. Like the deal has been talked about, like you said, for over a decade. It was 2015 when the Flames kind of first put forward in earnest this idea of replacing the Saddle Dome. And the idea then was to actually replace both the Saddle Dome and McMahon Stadium and have this kind of behemoth sports complex on the west side of downtown called West Village. But that proposal didn't really get off the ground. The previous mayor of Calgary, Naheed Nenshi, he fought the Flames, and he fought Gary Bettman. You know, Gary Bettman would come to town and be like, the mayor needs to get on board with this and get this done. And Nenshi would be like, well, yeah, we're not just writing you a blank check for a new arena. Like, we're going to do our due diligence on this. So this thing's been grinding on for so long. I do think it'll go ahead, but the implications of it, the implications for the city's finances, for the next municipal election, that's what's going to be interesting, I think.
Yeah, no kidding. A little bit of time between now and the next municipal election, so that may not be the number one pressure that politicians are feeling. You have to expect that they felt pulled in a number of different directions on this. Some people hate to see a single dollar of public money go toward the billionaire's pet projects, as they're often characterized, whereas other people hate to see a team hate to see a team embarrassed by its dated facilities. You know, you welcome star new players to town, and the first thing that surfaces is photos of the dressing room they're going to be using, and they look like a high school dressing room built in the 1960s, and the whole city feels shame, and the mayor's office starts to get emails and phone calls saying, you better not let Murray Edwards move this team somewhere else. I'm onto something, right? People feel very strongly about the connection between sports teams and their home cities.
Oh, totally. And there is it's interesting. I was going back when I was putting together this story, going back and looking at the 2019 deal and how that played out, and kind of the arguments that people were making, both for and against it, when that came up. And it was interesting to look back on Nenshi's perspective, because there was kind of all this boosterism around it, which was, if we build this arena, it's going to revitalize this whole district of downtown. It's going to be this economic engine. It's going to do all this marvelous things for the city. And Nenshi's perspective, he was like, I actually don't believe any of that. He didn't go in for this boosterism angle of things, but he did say, I think there is a value in that kind of civic pride that people feel. And I think you see that with the Saddle Dome. Like, the Saddle Dome is such a piece of the city's infrastructure, like the Peace Bridge. It's like, it's one of these things that is on the skyline, and it kind of evokes this emotional reaction. Both positive and negative. Now, like you said, it's dated, and people are like, let's replace it.
Yeah, we fall in love with our facilities and the churches of these memories, and then we fall out of them just as quickly. In particular, I know that it's been difficult for people in Calgary to see Edmonton have a shiny new arena. Opening in 2017, getting all the big new concerts. People understand there are some infrastructure shortcomings with the Saddle Dome. Can't even accommodate the big concerts anymore.
Which is funny, because that is exactly what happened in the early 1980s when the Saddle Dome was going to be built. So when the Flames first came to Calgary, they played in the Stampede Corral, which, if you want to talk about like an ancient deteriorating barn.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I can imagine what it was like to see games in there. But then there was concern, okay, where are the Flames going to play? We need a better arena for the Flames. But one of the other concerns was that Edmonton had just built this nice new arena, Northlands Coliseum. And hey, look, Bruce Springsteen and whoever else is bypassing Calgary and going to Edmonton. And are we going to let this happen? Like, we need to build a new arena, not just for the hockey, but for the music, for the big shows. So it's interesting to me, this just kind of repeats itself. We're seeing the exact same arguments right now.
Okay, so I'm curious to know, and I've got a million questions for you, Jeremy. People can check out your work at sprawlcalgary.com. I love how you do it. They can read the long-form reporting, and then they can also listen to the Sprawlcast, which is great. You're working it out in beautiful fashion there on the storytelling front, on the accessibility front. So let's get into the details. Like, I remember sitting in the Saddle Dome around 2017, right around that municipal election. Naheed Nenshi, the incumbent, seeking re-election, and Bill Smith, who appeared to be the most formidable challenger, was quite openly the favorite of the Calgary Flames. Like, I remember the LED boards, the advertising around the ring of the Saddle Dome was like, vote Bill Smith in like red and yellow text. I mean, it was just so obvious that Nenshi was not the preferred candidate of the Calgary Flames. Bill Smith didn't win. I mean, that's democracy. The people of Calgary, I guess, didn't like what he was putting out there, running on getting an arena deal done. What changed between then, a couple of other breakdowns, including with the current mayor, Jyoti Gondek? I don't think that the only reason why her former chief of staff, Stephen Carter, lost his job was the breakdown in the arena deal talks, but that appeared to be a big part of it. That was early in her tenure after winning that election. So how did we get to where we are right now?
Yeah, I think there's an element of, like you say, it's just been going on for so long. So council approved this deal. So let's go back to Bill Smith ads in the Saddle Dome, what you're talking about. That election, very interesting. Nenshi was running against Bill Smith, but kind of also running against Ken King and Gary Bettman and the Flames. He kind of cast himself as, you know what, these guys want to fleece us for this new arena. And like, I'm going to stand up to these billionaires. I'm going to fight for a good deal for Calgary. You know, if they want us to pay for all this, you know, they can go pay for it themselves. So he kind of casts himself as standing up for the city, the citizens and their interests. His position did soften, though, a couple of years in, and they came to a deal, which was, let's split the costs 50-50, $550 million. And then she says, you know, I think this makes sense on its merits. It's worth it for the civic pride type stuff. And then, of course, as things happen with these things, costs escalate. 550. Oh, well, that won't quite do it. So it looks like it'll be over 600 million. And so by the time the last election rolls around in 2021, the arena is again an issue. And you have progressive candidates campaigning on, you know, no more public dollars for the Flames. Progressive candidates like Jasmine Mian saying, you know, basically council got railroaded. And if I could go back and undo this deal, I would. Like, these guys they want an arena, they can pay for it themselves. That election happens. Jyoti Gondek is elected mayor. And the thing breaks down. And this is where it gets kind of murky and doesn't still add up to me, which is apparently it fell apart over the costs of some sidewalks and solar panels, which are like very tiny in the big scope of the cost of the actual project. In any case, the Flames walk away, and this new council kind of comes together right away after that and says, let's reboot this. Sonia Sharp is a first-term councillor. She kind of champions this, and she says, let's do this, but we're going to do it different. And so she's been leading this charge, but one of the elements of it is that there has been no real substantial public discussion or public engagement on it. It's kind of like, let's make this happen. And what happened was they came out in April and were like, we got a deal. This is what it is. They didn't even debate it at council, which is a significant difference from the last one in 2019. There you had people critiquing it. You had people arguing for it, against it. It was all discussed on the floor of council. This time, kind of under Sharp's championing of this and the mayor, they come out, they say, you know what, this is a restricted item. And they voted on it in less than 2 minutes. It came to council, they voted on it in less than 2 minutes, unanimous vote, everybody in full agreement. And so that's where we're at.
I don't know, someone that like nerds out in municipal politics, and that's a compliment, not an insult, but someone who nerds out on municipal politics could probably tell me the last time that Edmonton's council voted unanimously on something. I don't know what it would have been. It probably would have been something like a no hate policy or something positive for the community. But on like an $800+ million municipal investment, there's no way. Edmonton's council's got an interesting dynamic, and there's a lot of people trying to make a name for themselves there. And you would have the naysayers, as most councils do, the people that you can count on to be the no votes. There would be at least one, probably 3 or 4. But I mean, a unanimous decision by the city of Calgary, by its councillors? I mean, how significant is that, Jeremy, for people that don't watch council proceedings every single day?
Yeah. I mean, there will, be unanimous votes on very small, kind of inconsequential
fun stuff,
things, or things that are no-brainers.
No-brainers, yeah.
Yeah, but this is, I would say, very unusual. If you look at the last council, when the arena deal came up in 2019, it was an 11-4 vote, and those 4 who voted against it were providing a substantial critique. And very interestingly, you had it on the right and you had it on the left. So you had, Jeremy Farkas was a conservative city councillor at the time. He was kind of critiquing it from the right, from the, is this a good use of taxpayers' dollars, fiscal responsibility kind of argument. And then you had Drew Farrell on the left, actually kind of critiquing it with the same arguments, like, what are we doing spending money on this when we, the city had just cut its transit budget and things like that. And then this arena deal came up. So you had this vigorous discussion happening in public. So not just on the floor of council, but in the public as well. And this time it's been very, how would I say, I don't know if I'd say the word manufactured, but it's been orchestrated to kind of minimize that public discussion. And part of that is the 15 of them emerging from behind closed doors and saying, yep, we're all in agreement on this. And so, I've talked to a lot of people in Calgary who were kind of like, what in the world just happened there? Because this includes people who had campaigned against, more arena dollars for the Flames. And then they're walking out and saying, nope, this is great for the city. It'll revitalize this area. Everything's good.
Well, I mean, it is true. It will revitalize the area. And it is true to get a huge infrastructure project right in the downtown is positive typically for a city, but at what expense? I mean, you have to look at the bottom line. People might be curious to see how this stacks up against the Edmonton deal, and we'll go there in just a second. Jeremy Klaszus, Editor-in-Chief of The Sprawl, with us. If you're just joining the show, maybe live tuning on the Mixer audio app presented by California Closets, you can read his work at sprawlcalgary.com, and we're going to talk about supporting his journalism before we wrap today. But Jeremy, what do you think changed? I guess I'm asking you to speculate, but have any councillors that were vociferously against this? I mean, some of the language was even pretty supercharged to simply emerge as a united front. I mean, obviously something happened. What do you think it was?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things. If you talk to them, and I did talk to them, I read back their own words to them. I said, hey, Courtney, Walcott, you campaigned on no more public dollars for the Flames. You campaigned on no more billionaire bailouts for the Flames without, Calgarians being engaged. I read that back to him. I read Jasmine Mian, saying council got railroaded. If the Flames want an arena, they should build it themselves. You talk to them, and the argument is kind of like, this deal was so good that we had to do it. So like one element of the new deal is that the province is kicking in money. The province is kicking in over 300 million, most of that for infrastructure around the arena. So there's an underpass that'll connect Victoria Park to East Village and kind of help get people in and out of the arena. And so the way that played out was very interesting too, because this whole thing was announced in April, right after the kickoff of the provincial election.
Yeah, so this was definitely an election issue in Calgary.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so you have Danielle Smith. She just kicked off an election. standing up there with Jyoti Gondek and Sonia Sharp, Councillor Sonia Sharp, and Smith explicitly saying, Calgarians, vote for us, vote for the UCP on May 25th or whatever it is, so we can get this deal done. So that was, again, I think a lot of people were like, what?
Yeah, I know. I'm showing one of the photos on my screen right here. This was the big one. I remember it was, Jyoti Gondek and Danielle Smith together, brought together by one of the Flames' all-time greats, Lanny McDonald. Yeah. And I remember we had Gondek on the show right around this time-ish. And, Jeremy, we've got a very engaged audience. We get a lot of questions in the live chat. And I remember a few people, imploring us to ask Calgary's mayor if she felt like she was being used as a pawn in the UCP's campaign down in Calgary. It was a very interesting time and undeniably was something that Calgarians would have been considering, at least a lot of them, as they were casting their votes.
Yeah. And, on the progressive side, I know a lot of progressives were quite taken aback to see, again, this unanimous vote for Danielle Smith, Premier Smith, standing up there saying, wow, unanimous vote, like everybody's on board with this, like let's move ahead with it, vote UCP on May 25th.
Yeah.
So as for what really happened, I mean, in these cases, the city hired a advisory / negotiating firm to kind of make this happen this time, make it happen for real. And talking to councillors, it sounds like they were presented behind closed doors with a very compelling case on why to move ahead with this. I also wonder, with progressives in particular, there's this idea of trust the experts. We need to trust the experts. Actually, that's something Mayor Gondek says quite a bit in council. Something like the housing strategy comes up and she's like, you know what? I trust the experts. This has been put together. Let's do it. And so I wonder if that plays into this too, where, councillors look at it and are like, well, seems like these people know what they're talking about. So let's do it. Trust the experts.
Hey, Jeremy, on your Instagram, I enjoyed this. You celebrated, the city of Calgary celebrated the 40th birthday of the Saddle Dome. I am a Calgary kid, born and raised. We pulled your Instagram photo there. You see, today the Saddle Dome officially turns 40 years old, and I love you showed the throwback Peter Mansbridge.
Peter Mansbridge with hair.
With like for people that are watching on YouTube, you can see there's the big fax machine behind him, which is amazing. On set, like it's like da 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 da.
Yeah, that's what you need, Ryan.
Yeah, getting a fax mid show with an updated information. But yeah, like Johnny says, it's hilarious. Like in red across the image of the Saddle Dome, it just says "Dat." I haven't seen the Nationals reporting on that from 40 years ago. Do you have any context there? Were people decrying anybody going into debt building this project 40 years ago? Have attitudes changed?
Yeah, it was a controversial thing. And actually, the Saddle Dome, and I had forgotten about this, the Saddle Dome was built with public money, municipal, provincial, federal.
Olympics coming at the time, obviously,
exactly.
Right?
Olympics was coming, so that was the big engine. It's like, let's build this and let's get it done. It's very interesting to look back on that period of time in Calgary's history versus now. Like I have a good friend who's, season tickets Flames fan holder, and he kind of said to me, exasperated one day, he's like, what does it take in this city to get something built? Like just watching this thing grind on and go through different iterations. But if you look back at the 80s, the Olympics were coming, and that was kind of the impetus to get a bunch of stuff done. So the Saddle Dome was one of those projects, but it was contentious at the time. People were like, why are we paying, all this money for this? There were cost overruns to the tune of, I think it was like the budget was $84 million and the overruns were $16 million or something. So that was contentious. But yeah, I get a kick out of how history just repeats itself.
But there's something to what your buddy's saying about what does it take to get things built around here. And that has to have been a big motivating factor for some of these politicians that were probably looking to establish And I think if I'm the mayor of Calgary, I'm looking to establish that I'm not necessarily looking to pick fights with the billionaires, the movers, and the shakers. I'm not looking to pick a fight with, big shots in the oil sands industry and the major players in Calgary's downtown. I'm looking to establish the fact that Calgary deserves its reputation as one of Canada's young, burgeoning urban centers, drawing the brightest young talent, proving that it's still Canada's energy capital. You want to see construction cranes up. You want to see tradespeople working, right? I mean, that is a thing. And a city,
totally.
right? A city can quickly develop a reputation, as can a province, as can a country, as one that's not business friendly, and that's very inconvenient for the politicians.
Oh, for sure. And that's a factor here. And in fact, when this passed, Mayor Gondek repeatedly said, this is a signal that we are investing in the downtown, that we see a future in the downtown, that like we see a future for this city. We're a yes city, not a no city, all that stuff. But yeah, I like, again, looking back to the 80s, to get a project like this done, you almost have to ram it through. Like, you have to look at it, be like, this is what the city needs, and you got to go for it. And I think that is essentially what Councillor Sonia Sharp, the approach that she's taken on this, which is, we're not going to dither with this and take forever and go out and do all this public engagement and all this stuff. It's like, no, we've done all that for all the past ones. Let's get this done. And I think you see that too, actually, if you go back to the 1980s, looking at the LRT being built at the time, through neighborhoods like Sunnyside, where people were opposed to it, like residents in the area. And Ralph Klein was the mayor at the time, and he was kind of like, nope, this is happening, like, give her. And that was kind of the mood at the time of the administration. So I do think you see echoes of that, where it's like, if we're going to do this, you got to do it. We can't just sit around and talk about this forever.
Yeah, no kidding. We're talking to Jeremy Klaszus in a second. I want us to stack up. Like, you may just tell me in 90 seconds from now that it's apples and oranges and it doesn't make sense. But I do think it's important to take a look at the Edmonton Arena deal versus the Calgary Arena deal. There's some huge differences there. Obviously, the dollar value is quite significantly different as well. But we'll take a look at what worked in Edmonton, what was contentious at that time, and maybe how that applies to the Calgary Arena deal. That's coming up. This episode is happening with support of Real Talk sponsors like our friends at California Closets. All this talk about building, all this talk about improvements, is it inspiring you to maybe move forward with your own plan to improve your living space, to improve the quality of your storage, your organization, how you feel about your number one investment, your home? California Closets is providing customized design solutions for clients in all different types of scenarios. For you, it could be a walk-in closet. Maybe it's an art center for the kids, or maybe it's an entertainment center that the whole family can enjoy. Make the most of your space with custom organizational systems from California Closets, including the workhorse of your home, the garage. More and more people are realizing the potential that's right there in the garage, and California Closets is the best in the business at coming up with custom solutions that work for you. It all starts with a free design consultation at californiaclosets.ca. We tell you time and time again how proud we are to partner with Grand Dog Essentials quality raw food. Why? Because we've been feeding our dogs Grand Dog Essentials quality raw food for years now, way before we started doing business with this family-owned company, and we've seen the health benefits. Right now, through the month of October, you can knock $16 off a box of chicken veggie dog food blend using the discount code October2023. That's October 2023. The discount code to use at granddog.ca. Also, make sure you check out their 4-leaf Rover bundles, including fiber boosts for dogs. If your dog is like our old fella, Moses, experiencing hip and joint issues, there's a bundle for that. There's a bundle for allergy support, a basic bundle, one for healthy skin, immunity support, and more. You get the idea. Grand Dog Essentials delivers to your door in Calgary, Edmonton, Central Alberta, and you can knock 10% off your first order with the promo code REALTALK at granddog.ca. And while we're talking about building and improving spaces, how about the outdoor spaces? That's where Eden Landscaping is the expert in the Metro Edmonton region. For more than 20 years, they've been helping people bring their outdoor spaces to life, like beautiful projects in the Balmoral Heights neighborhood. The client here had a vision of West Coast spirit meeting modern design, and that's why they took inspiration like boulders from the banks of the North Saskatchewan River to create a pair of dry creek beds, adding visual depth as well as basically science in action, nourishing the greenery at their banks. The yard is working for the clients. The highlights include a fire pit, an alfresco dining area, a cedar pergola, and water features. You can check out this installation and other amazing projects by visiting Eden Landscaping online at landscapeedmonton.ca. Jeremy Klaszus, our guest. He's founder and editor-in-chief at Sprawl Calgary. His newest piece out talking about the real cost of Calgary's arena deal. Jeremy, Rogers Place opens in Edmonton just in time for the puck drop on the Oilers season. Hard to look back now and believe it's 6-7 years ago that the Oilers first moved into that rink. Of course, there's been a ton of high-profile concerts, the sold-out series with Garth Brooks. Everybody knows that. And Calgarians looked up north and started to feel that burn, the feeling they didn't love. The arena deal in Edmonton happened, and people can check it out online. It's easy to find. The funding for Rogers Place, in total, just over $480 million, including the underground parking structure. Of that, the Oilers ownership, the Cates Group, paid about $132 million. 113 of that paid to the city as rent over 35 years, covering the city's principal and interest costs as well. The remaining $20 million paid as cash. The city of Edmonton's contribution of about $250 million, $226 million, including funding through that CRL, the Community Revitalization Levy, which was paid back ahead of schedule, new parking revenues, and redirecting a subsidy that was in place for the old rink. They also collected and are collecting $125 million through a ticket surcharge. Widely viewed, I think in retrospect, is a pretty good deal for the city of Edmonton, all things considered. How do the Calgary and Edmonton deals compare?
Well, and Calgarians will probably look at that now and be like, wow, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
In the past, they might have been more critical of it. But the big thing that jumps out to me is just the number, the price tag of the whole project and what the city is putting into it, what Edmonton put into it, and what Calgary is putting in. And I should clarify one thing I didn't mention earlier. I said, the city of Calgary is putting up $831 million in cash for the new arena. That is true. Now the Flames are paying back $316 million over the next 35 years. So that there is that similar element to Edmonton's deal. But it's just the scale of it is very, very different. Calgary, they did it a little bit differently this time around, where they were like, we're not going to do all this, ticket tax and like these little ways to recoup revenue. They were like, we're just going to roll that all into these annual lease payments that the Flames are going to pay us annually. I think it starts at $17 million a year, and then it goes up incrementally over 35 years. So, but it'll be interesting to, as time unfolds, look back and say, who got the better deal here? You look at it right now, you look at the price tags, and maybe Edmonton got the better deal.
Comparing price tags is when we're talking, this arena in Calgary, I'm assuming they're saying it's going to break ground. They're obviously not going to tear up those grounds before a Calgary Stampede. So the earliest they would break ground on this would be July of next summer at the earliest?
They're talking next year.
So July
and like
24?
The most optimistic, John Bean, the Flames CEO, has said, we're gunning to have this thing open for the 2026 season. Likely that won't happen. He even acknowledged that.
Yeah.
It'll probably be the next next year. But
yeah, I mean, construction projects typically are, off schedule and over budget, but that's just the cynic in me. Obviously, everybody would like to see it completed as soon as possible. It will be a huge shot in the arm, a huge injection into Calgary's downtown that is positive. I want to get to our live chat here, and obviously some of the comments that people have here, pointing out that, Seventh Pilot says the arena is not just for hockey. These are used for countless events. So, I mean, it's obviously good for Calgary's downtown. Cheryl says there's a housing shortage. Cheryl's not wrong. Says this kind of cash could go a long way to help solve homelessness. Some people might say, well, that's a different conversation. Maybe that doesn't belong in the same conversation. But right at the outset of our talk here, Jeremy, we played a clip, and you cite or you quote economist Dr. Trevor Tombe, who does say, this isn't a free lunch. Just because people's property taxes are going up doesn't mean it's a free lunch. The Calgary Council has made a decision here to commit a significant amount of cash that could otherwise be allocated, right? There's not as much breathing room, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I mean, they've made this cash commitment, some of which is earmarked from the previous deal.
Right.
So they kind of already had this set aside in their reserves for a project like this. But it's very interesting, the comment on housing, because earlier this month, the city and the Flames announced that the formal agreements for the deal had been signed. So there was this big press conference at Calgary City Hall, like more people than I've seen. It was kind of funny, all the media that was there. I was like, I haven't seen this many other journalists in one place for a long time. But Councillor Sonia Sharp, in announcing this news, actually alluded to housing, and she said, hey, we have she kind of nodded to the housing crisis, saying this new event center district, or whatever you want to call it, will have 8,000 or 9,000 new residents living here. So they're trying to make the connection too, and say, hey, this is going to build more housing supply in this part of the city.
Yeah. This is maybe coming at a time as well where, and maybe I'm reading too much into this. I mean, I'm talking about the actual management of the hockey club and some of the recent developments. Matthew Tkachuk, who's developed into, potentially this year a Hart Trophy finalist, took his team, the Florida Panthers, to the Stanley Cup final after letting the Flames know that he didn't plan on re-upping with them. Johnny Gaudreau, one of the Flames' all-time greats, one of their all-time top scorers of Johnny Hockey, just a very likable guy, I think, shocking everybody by going to Columbus, and just a bizarre move. But you got the sense, even current Flames, I mean, they signed Backlund, which is good. They're trying to get Lindholm under contract, but people are going like, is Calgary not a place where people want to play anymore? Is there like a stigma attached to the Calgary Flames? And I know that there were Flames fans that were starting to feel, whether they admitted it or not, maybe a little bit insecure about the whole thing. Calgary's a wonderful city. It's a city where I was born and raised, and I think that the city sells itself. It's an amazing city, but optically, it's been a bit of a tough stretch for the Flames, and maybe this is something that gives the fan base reason to remind themselves that there are good things that lie in wait, that the future is bright. And probably for a lot of people, some sense of relief that as part of the deal, Flames ownership commits to staying in the city for another 35 years. Is that something that the average person is talking about, the fact that there is a commitment for the Flames to stay in Calgary?
I don't know that was ever really in question, realistically. I mean, that gets thrown around in the course of
owners always threaten it. They always threaten.
Yeah, there's the threat, and Kate's did the same thing in Edmonton.
Yeah.
It's just part of the playbook. So I don't think anybody who seriously follows these things was like, oh, the Flames are in. We're about to lose the Flames, even though Premier Smith, people will say this kind of stuff. That this will keep the Flames in Calgary. But I mean, to your point, I do know that John Bean, the Flames CEO, did a Q&A earlier this month, and he's for them, they're like, this is reason for optimism, like for this club, like we're going to get this going. It's kind of going to invigorate the team, the fan base. So I think there is that element to it for sure. Calgary, we're always insecure. You know, we see these shows going to Edmonton. We see Edmonton's nice new arena. But the funny thing is, I'm actually an Oilers fan. Don't tell anybody that. But I grew up outside Edmonton. So when it comes to it, Battle of Alberta, I'm going for the Oilers.
Okay, so we've got a talk show host here based in Edmonton who used to work for the Oilers but was a born and raised Calgary Flames fan, interviewing a Calgary-based publisher and media player down in Cowtown who grew up outside Edmonton and is an Oilers fan at heart. So if people want to kind of wrap their mind around the dynamic that's happening in this conversation, nice and simple. All of this produced by the Oilers' former DJ, Johnny Infamous. There's a lot of NHL angles on this one. Hey, Jared, before we let you go, thank you for your time. Let me ask you, and I know I'm not putting you on the spot because you're the one that authored this piece as well. People can check it out at sprawlcalgary.com, the fight over Calgary's housing plan. Can you tee this up for us and give us an idea of what's happening down for people that haven't been paying attention to this story in fulsome detail? What's happening with housing down in Calgary? It's been popping up in and out of the headlines, even national headlines over the past number of months.
Oh, yeah. Well, the city passed last month a new housing strategy. One of the key parts of it, though, is the fight over it is still to come. And I think you're having something similar happening in Edmonton as we speak, which is around zoning, changing the base level of zoning
big time
citywide. Yeah, that's the big one. And
you know what, Jeremy? Like people, let's get into it because a lot of people aren't talking about it because it's not sexy and it's not that interesting. But there's a lot at play here. There's a lot at stake.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot at stake, and the politics of it are fascinating to follow. I find it very interesting when you look at what the federal conservatives are saying, what the federal liberals are saying, which is basically like, let's get as much housing supply built as we can. And even the federal conservatives taking on some of these municipal council members saying, you guys are essentially getting in the way. You're stopping much needed housing from being built. So I'm thinking in particular of Michelle Rumpel-Garner, Calgary Conservative MP, talking to Calgary's City Council and very alluding to conservative councillors like Sonia Sharp, who is fighting for, let's not change this zoning bylaw. Let's keep it more or less how it is so people can come and have their say when there are zoning changes in their neighborhood. And Michelle Rumpel-Garner is saying, you're pandering to these quote unquote NIMBY votes. Yeah. And you got to stop doing that. So the politics of it are very fascinating.
Well, because everybody knows that at every level of government, and Pierre Poilievre is setting up the next federal election to be all about affordability, inflation, people's lifestyles, debt loads, right? I mean, that's the whole plan, the whole just inflation thing. And so conservative politicians, or for that matter, politicians of any stripe that are incumbent, that are heading into that election, know that they're going to be evaluated on proof of performance in most ridings anyway. And people are going to be saying, what did you do to try to turn the tide? What did you do to try to improve the scenario? What did you do to try to get people into housing that they can afford? And there's so many angles on that matter. And so, of course, they're going to be looking at this. I was talking to a builder in Edmonton just a couple of days ago, Jeremy. He said actually he was praising Calgary's plan, and he was saying that Edmonton's doesn't go far enough. Basically, some of the zoning changes in some residential areas mean that in Edmonton you'll only be able to build up to 3 stories for multifamily or multi-unit housing, whereas I understand a difference of just a few feet in Calgary allows there to be 4-story buildings built. And he was talking to me about, he said that might seem small, that might seem like a small difference, he said, but it's actually huge. And he was saying that Calgary's doing a better job in his estimation of addressing the housing shortage than Edmonton is.
Interesting. Well, yeah, maybe you get the better arena deal, and then at the end of the day, we do a better job of addressing the housing shortage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a feather in the cap, I guess, for both cities, and you can pick which one you'd rather be better at.
It'll be fascinating though to see to see this play out, because I mean, this stuff plays out at the most ground level of politics. Like, you walk out your door and look down your street, and a new a row house is going up, and like people get emotional, and it's really interesting to see how that will unfold.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see a lot of so-called progressive and left-leaning politicians and former politicians in Edmonton be the ones that are adamantly against some of the proposed changes.
Not that we're mentioning any names like Kevin Taft.
Like Kevin Taft, former leader of the Alberta Liberal Party, who wants to make sure that everybody still has their big backyards.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that's a whole thing to unpack, which is progressives who are opposed to these zoning changes. And I'm talking about, like you say, high-powered progressives who have had positions of influence in politics. In the Alberta NDP, same thing. You start digging there, you'll see like a number of prominent people involved with kind of trying to protect the status quo.
No, for sure. Like, shut down and close down all the private golf clubs, but don't inconvenience any rich residential property owners. Shut down the public or the private golf clubs, but don't touch our historic neighborhoods. That's the position that's being taken by a lot of them.
Yeah. People in arts organizations, like progressives. That's a whole issue. Buddy, I think that should be talked about too, because I don't think it is enough.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I love when people are made to feel uncomfortable by their own politics. That's something that I think should happen more frequently, including with me and you, Jer. And we love when people hold us accountable. We love when people interact and engage with our content. Before we go, I appreciate how you kick off your Sprawlcast. And we remind people they can read your work at sprawlcalgary.com, but they can also listen to it. I love it. You got to deal with CJSR, right?
CJSW.
CJSW, pardon me. Getting my cities mixed up. And so it airs there, and then they can also download it in podcast form. That's what I do when I listen to it. But you kick it off by simply saying, if you like what we're doing, if you value our journalism, then please support us so we can continue to put these important stories out there. I don't think it's lost on anybody that the media landscape is changing, and without citizen support, entities like The Sprawl down in Calgary, and for that matter, Real Talk, just can't happen. So what are the best ways that people can support Sprawl?
Best way is by pitching in a few dollars. Go to sprawlcalgary.com. You can sign up as a monthly supporter or as a one-time supporter, but that's what makes the whole thing go. And, for a story like this one that we just did, like that involved reviewing upwards of 20 city council meetings. I mean, combing over all this stuff, over all these documents.
Sounds
over a
so
period
fun.
of a decade. Oh yeah. I love it. It's fun, but it takes a ton of time and a ton of work. So if people appreciate it, it doesn't happen magically. You got to pitch in to make it happen.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I'm grateful that there are people like you, Jeremy, that are willing to go through the transcripts of 20 different meetings and pour through documents so the rest of us with very short attention spans don't have to do it. Congratulations on a great bit of journalism at sprawlcalgary.com. I love how you report these things in earnest. You obviously care very deeply about what you do in the city from where you do it. We'll chat with you again soon, pal.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. Great to be here.
You got it. That's Jeremy Klaszus, the founder and editor-in-chief at Sprawl Calgary.
God
doing a great job
bless him,
down
and all
there.
those journalists like him. It's no joke, man. Throw $1, throw $2, throw $10, throw $1,000, whatever you got.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, especially, we've been talking about it. It's really hard.
Yeah.
To continue to do what you do, and I'm not just talking about people who the big stories and exposing criminals. It's just everyday people like Jeremy, who are talking about arena deals, who are talking about housing, who are talking about stuff like that. It's getting harder and harder for them to continue to do what they do the best they can because they don't have the funds to do it. So
totally, and to fund like the long form journalism,
exactly.
right? The stuff that takes
when you got to research stuff
months.
for 3, 4, 5 months, you got to get all the facts in order. Like that stuff takes money. So.
Yeah. You got it. Again, Sprawl Calgary is where you can see that happen. Now, of course, you know that support for this podcast on Real Talk, support for this show comes from sponsors like our friends at Friesen Brothers, who want to remind you that coming up on October 21st and 22nd, they present the October Feast. Yeah, that's right, from 4 to 8 p.m. at all of Friesen Brothers Fresh Market stores. You can find the details at friesen.com. That's Freson. Again, 4 to 8 p.m. A German-inspired all-you-can-eat meal, just $25 per person. Includes Alberta beef rouladen, chicken fricassee, German potato dumplings, sauerkraut, German rice, sourdough buns, the full salad bar, and so much more. Plus, don't forget, Thanksgiving may be behind us, but you've got a chance to win your ham. That's right, win your ham at Friesen Brothers. All Smart Shopper Loyalty Program members can win a gift card matching the amount that they spent on Friesen Brothers Banges Classic Ham this week. You can find more information at the weekly flyer at friesen.com.
That buffet is packed every weekend. I go into our local Friesen Bros Rabbit Hill Road. I was like, is the German thing going on right now? Is it October? No, people just love that buffet. Always fresh food.
When you know what, like, have you ever, you've been to a buffet and some people think like, buffet, they think like lousy, like instant mashed potatoes and like
sitting
lousy
there for
stuff.
2 days. Yeah,
the Friesen Brothers buffet
it's
is
amazing.
Like if you were at Grandma and Grandpa's house and they had been working for 48 hours on putting together an incredible home style, like it's. I always rave about the braised beef short rib. That's like my personal go-to with a big glob of horseradish on it. The best. There's so much great stuff there.
For everyone.
Yeah, for everybody. Absolutely great, including a lot of plant-based options. Johnny's a big fan of those, as he tells us. Here in our studio, we're grateful every single day we show up for the work that was done by Complete Care Restoration. Sure, everybody knows them for how they're able to get people back on their feet after fire and flood damage hits, right? That's the nightmare. Or you think you're knocking out a wall to maybe open up your kitchen, something like that. You're going to open up the main floor of your house, and what do you discover? Oh, black mold. Even worse, potentially, asbestos. Don't try to handle something like that yourself, right? You're going to want to get in touch with their trained experts that can assist in sampling and analyzing building materials, ensuring hazardous substances are properly addressed. And then, if you're one of those that's looking at maybe a piece of property you got downtown, could be a small commercial building, an office building, you're looking at making it a conversion project, Complete Care Restoration, that's right up their alley. They did the exact same thing for us. We give them 2 thumbs up for their professionalism, for the quality of their work. If you have any questions about working with Complete Care, send me an email and ask about it. I mean what I say when I talk about them. You can find them online at CompleteCareRestoration.ca. And a shout out to our friends at Kubi Energy. We're always telling you to go check out their Instagram. You'll find them at Kubi Energy, where you can meet team members of theirs, the human team members, Johnny, and also the 4-legged ones like Yoda, the office pup. This is Jake's dog. Jake is the CEO of Kubi, and Yoda brightens everybody day when he makes an appearance in the office. Just a very, very good boy is Yoda. They've got that soccer ball didn't last long when Yoda got a hold of it, but that's okay. He still loves ripping it around at Kubi HQ. They talk about the workplace and how really having a quality team and a workplace where there's a lot of fun and a lot of focus is drawing more and more people into the office these days. Well, that's what Kubi believes in. It's why they got ball hockey on Fridays. It's why they got cold beer on tap. Working for Kubi, it's a little bit different than the other guys, and they're hiring right now. You can check out more details at kubienergy.ca.
Working at Kubi sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, you know what? It'd be really cool as well when we're working at Kubi, to be part of something where, you and I have both worked in radio. Yeah. And I remember when I was working in AM radio, great while it lasted. Did you see LinkedIn suggested the other day? So LinkedIn suggested last night, my old radio station's hiring a senior talk show host.
Oh, there you go.
LinkedIn put it on my radar. They said, your skill set seems to match this job posting.
You could be like, I have previous experience in this
at
exact
that radio.
position.
Well, thank you. Thank you, LinkedIn. But there was that feeling when you're working on a platform or in an industry, and it's not just limited to media. People can relate to this all around, and you see threats to that industry's viability. You see long-term that the future of that industry, the opportunities may be waning as opposed to growing. And working in renewables, like working at Kubi, all you're seeing is more and more interest in the area, more and more growth in the area, and you feel good about the environmental impact of what you're doing too. So,
and it's one of the reasons I came over here to do what I do with you. It's hard because I have so many friends in media, and I love what they do, and I'm really scared about that landscape. I mean, we see it every every third or fourth quarter, all the layoffs.
Well, it comes back to
all
what
the
we're
shrinking.
just talking about, even with Jeremy in the Sprawl, right?
Yeah.
Like newspaper newsrooms, like classic print, traditional print newsrooms are shrinking, and people are losing their jobs, and the people that keep their jobs are expected to do the jobs of 2 or 3 people for the same amount of pay that they were making 10 years ago.
And it's not animosity or like,
not at all.
Like we got out. It's
not at all.
I enjoy radio. I love turning on local radio.
This is the new radio,
and doing whatever. But now I can get the same stuff from the local podcasts in Alberta, podcasts rather, in Alberta, in Ontario, in Canada, in the States. Get all my news and get all my funny stuff, and even like, I don't want to say it, but like most people, they jump in their car now. Like, if you want to hear your favorite song, it's right there on your phone. It's on Spotify, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to turn on the radio and listen. But I still think we should support local media in all forms as much as we possibly can, even though the other stuff is so minute to minute, just right there for you.
Well, I mean, that's why you'll meet a lot of the independent storytellers. It's why you'll meet a lot of independent media players across the country on this show, and that's intentional. Nobody's going to care more about the quality of their product than the people that are doing it from not just a professional standpoint, like this is how I pay my bills, but also out of a conviction of the importance of storytelling. When people make it personal, when they make it their life's work, and that applies across industries, right? Like the family-owned restaurants, the family-owned retail locations, all those types of things. You know?
Speaking of local stories and animals, because I know we were just queuing up I love Yoda destroying the ball. Local MLA, one of my favorites,
Oh,
Janis
Janis
Irwin,
Irwin,
yesterday
yeah.
had a real big scare. We wanted to chat about it because we were talking about it. Her cat, Oregano, got out. Apparently, a friend of hers just left the front door open, which is a big no-no for indoor cats. Whoever that friend is, slap on the wrist. But I'm only joking about it because eventually Oregano was missing. There was like a plea. Like, my wife loves Janis Irwin. So immediately my partner texted me. It was like, Oregano is missing. So I go online and I see that, she's out there. She's looking for the cat. And you know what? Eventually, they found a postal worker, actually. And this is the one thing my partner said as well. She's like, thank God for people who lose pets who have this prominence in the media, in the community, because who else is going to be able to have a postal worker who finds the cat and brings it home? So Oregano is now safe, thankfully. But we were talking about this yesterday because, I mean, here in Alberta, Edmonton especially, and this time of year.
Oh, careful with what you're about to say.
I do want to be careful because I know
somebody listening might be missing their cat right now.
Exactly. We see them all the time. But the chances...
Ow!
Yeah, there are coyotes that we see in our neighborhood especially, pets go missing all the time, and we're like, oh my gosh, if it's like
you feel sick when you see the announcement.
Those detective shows, right? It's the first 48. You got to find it because after that, the chances go down. So we're very happy to see that Oregano is home and just my wife's favorite political pet.
Do you think that Oregano is actually missing?
What?
Like, I'm just saying. I mean,
what are you talking about?
Well, I'm just saying, like 12,000 likes on her, 12,000 likes on the Instagram video of Oregano. Oregano was missing for what? Just a convenient, just a few hours. And
is this because the NDP's looking for a new leader?
People are talking about maybe Rachel Notley. Maybe there's pressure for Notley to resign, and maybe the news cycle. Maybe people needed some sort of.
Dude.
People needed a timeline refresh, and what better timeline refresh than to rally the community, bring together people of all political stripes to try to find the missing cat?
Oregano was just a distraction. Get out of here.
They want you talking about Oregano the cat. They don't want you talking about the upcoming fall session at the Alberta legislature. Is the Alberta NDP on the same page? Distraction at play. I am grateful that
we are. It's fun to joke when a pet comes home. It's the best. I mean, I will say this about my partner who texted me right away and was like, "They have found Oregano," and the pictures started flooding in of the postal worker giving it back to Janis. But our cat, our elderly cat. Oh my gosh, I just got choked up saying it. went missing about a year ago, and it was my fault. Again, I left the
the
door open.
worst.
Cats love the fresh air, right? So
Yeah.
they'll wander out on the porch. I didn't see our elderly cat do this. I shut the door. It was a windy day last fall, and so it took refuge somewhere. We didn't know. So my wife comes home. She's like, "Where's Chloe?" Chloe's gone. She starts freaking out. I said, "Oh my gosh, I just let the dog out about 10, 15 minutes ago. I might have left it outside." She starts crying, running outside.
It's the worst.
I don't want to tell you some of the things she was saying to me. It was basically like, I'm divorcing you if we don't find this cat. Like, it was like, John, I swear to God.
Oh, man.
And we go outside, and there's like a hole. There's like a spot, I don't know if it's from water or rain or whatever, between our back porch and the ground, which is next to like the garbage area, the garbage garage by our place. But anyways, it had dug in there, and Chloe was literally hiding because it was so windy.
Yeah.
And I was walking around the neighborhood, and I heard from literally like 2 blocks away, "I found it!" and just screaming, and we rejoiced, and we kissed, and we hugged, and we're still together to this day. But
Still
I'm
together
pretty
to
sure that
this
was
day.
going to be the end of my marriage.
Yeah.
But like, I knew what Janice was feeling at this. You know the same. If Moses or one of
man.
your dogs went missing,
I was
It's a piece of you,
partially
right? It's
I
a
was
piece of you.
partially responsible for the disappearance of Chica, the family Chihuahua, several years ago.
Really?
Yeah. I don't remember the exact details, but Chica got out, and she, long story short, we discovered her blissfully exploring the neighborhood, like, tail up, like just no problem, just, sort of trotting around, making her way through the neighborhood. And like, any dog that would have come up, let alone a coyote, to mess with Chica would have had another thing coming, because she was
Chihuahuas are no joke.
She was a force of nature and like just a beautiful girl. Chica kind of like taught me how to interact with dogs on a personal level. Chica was my gateway into getting my own dog, Moses.
Okay.
And so when she was missing, it is an absolutely sick feeling. She was only gone for like 20 minutes again.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then if you know that you're the one that left the
Responsible?
gate open, you're the one that left the front door open.
like
oh,
animals,
man.
they only get this small portion of our lives. Like,
Yeah.
and you want to make it, like my wife always says, you want to make every moment 10 times. Like when you have a good day, you want to make the dog. If the dog's having a good day, you got to make it 10 times better for them, because they get so few. But like, oh my gosh, when they go missing, your heart drops.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I don't actually think that Janis Irwin cooked up the oregano. Some people are like in the live chat, like, "What are you high on?" I mean, that's a completely different question, but it has nothing.
We'll
to do
save
with
that for
my
another
take on it.
show.
We'll save that for another show when we do like a cannabis roundtable.
Caffeine, cannabis.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's just coffee. Johnny and I just keep
Scotch.
It,
There's a lot of things in the
see
office
what
that
happens.
power the show.
Speaking of which, if you missed our Cheers to Alberta Beers roundtable, that was our version of a timeline cleanse.
Yeah.
On Friday. It's Alberta Beer Week right now, so if you missed that, you can check out our YouTube channel, or of course wherever you get your podcasts. Our Cheers to Alberta Beers episode.
Great episode.
Yeah, it was so much fun with 3 of the experts that are making their living in Alberta's burgeoning beer scene. Coming up on tomorrow's Real Talk, we're going to check in with Jay Ingram. You've heard him, you've seen him on the show before. Jay is one of Canada's most legendary science storytellers, and he's used his national and even international reach to inspire us. His new book takes a look at our future and how technology and innovation will shape who we understand ourselves to be and where we live, and all kinds of fascinating stuff. It's a look at the future in the not too far off future tomorrow, right here on Real Talk.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager